What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the Mock Draft Guy YouTube channel. Today, we are rolling right along with our 7-round 2023 team mock drafts, and we're up to team number 5, and that just so happens to be the Seattle Seahawks. Now, the Seattle Seahawks own 2 first-round picks, thank you to the Russell Wilson trade, and 2 second-round picks as well, so they could do some real damage early on. They have 5 picks inside the first 83 selections, so they can get some really good impact players very early on to improve on this surprising season that we saw with Geno Smith being a Pro Bowler, them making the playoffs. I know they bounced out in the first round to the San Francisco 49ers, but a hell of a surprising season for the Seattle Seahawks, and they can only build from here. So without further ado, I think we're just going to dive right into it. Pick number 5. Oh, I'm sorry. If you guys haven't followed along with this series yet, at pick number 1, I had Jalen Carter. At pick number 2, I had Bryce Young. Pick number 3, I had Will Anderson Jr. And pick number 4, I had CJ Stroud. So we're rolling right along here at number 5, Seattle. I'm going to go with Myles Murphy as my pick here. I think this pick makes a lot of sense. Myles Murphy is 6'6", 270 pounds, and he's got the versatility to play a 4-3 end or a 3-4 defensive end, which just so happens to be what the Seattle Seahawks play. I think he's a pretty polarizing prospect. I feel like a lot of people don't believe in him as much as I do. I see the talent, it's there. He's one of the strongest prospects I've ever seen. He's got big, huge arms. He's freakishly athletic. I think he's going to be fantastic in whatever role he plays in the NFL. And I think that 3-4 D end is a need. Well, defensive line in general is a need for the Seattle Seahawks. So I think if they can get away with Myles Murphy at number 5, they're already off to an amazing start. So Myles Murphy is my pick at number 5. Then moving on to pick number 20, I want to kind of preface this by saying that a lot of my selections are defensive based. Now, while the Seattle Seahawks pass defense was very good this year, I believe that they were 10th in passing yards and 10th in passing touchdowns given up and 14th in turnovers as well. But the problem was the run defense. They were terrible in run defense, 30th in rushing yards, 30th in rushing yards per attempt, and 27th in rushing touchdowns given up. They were atrocious across the board. I believe it was 183 rushing yards they were giving up a game. It was something unbelievable to that effect. So I think bolstering the front 7 is going to be massive for the Seattle Seahawks, not only in the draft, but in free agency as well. But rolling right along to pick number 20, I'm going to stick with the defense here, and I'm going to take Trenton Simpson from Clemson as well. The reason why I like Trenton Simpson here to the Seattle Seahawks, not only, besides for Jordan Brooks, the linebacking core was a little weak. Ever since Jordan Brooks went down, Tanner Muse stepped in, another Clemson product, by the way. Actually played pretty well for the small sample size that he played, but they need another sideline-to-sideline playmaker. Like Jordan Brooks is amazing. He consistently is in the top 5 in tackles every single year. They need to build on that. He needs kind of like a battery mate to run with, and especially since he probably won't be ready for the start of the season, they need a commander in the middle of that defense. I think Trenton Simpson is that guy that just has playmaker written all over him, especially from the linebacker position. So I'm going to go with Trenton Simpson here. Then at pick number 37 for the Seattle Seahawks, I'm going to continue to stick with the defense, and I'm going to go D-line yet again. Yes, we did get an edge at pick number 5. I'm going to go with Gervon Dexter here from Florida. Gervon Dexter has some real appeal at the nose tackle position. I know Al Woods has been really, really good since coming over to Seattle, but he's also really on the wrong side of 30. I think he's going to turn 36 this year. It's time to get some young guys into that defensive line as well. And Gervon Dexter's 6'6", 315 pounds. You can't teach that type of freakish athleticism, and he has line versatility as well. He could play all along the defensive line in a 3-4. I think it would be a great addition to the defensive line, a big body that could plug up some running lanes as well. And obviously, I said it before that the Seattle Seahawks need to work on improving their run defense, and getting someone like Gervon Dexter in the second round would be an absolute home run for that. And then with their next pick at number 52, their second round pick, I've been saying for a while that the Seattle Seahawks have been very too wide receiver heavy. The last few years, it's been DK Metcalf, it's been Tyler Lockett, and it really has been a whole lot of nothing in between that. I think especially with Tyler Lockett getting on the older side, DK Metcalf having a very, very good year. They both went over 1,000 yards yet again. I think it's time to get another legitimate weapon that you could rely on at the wide receiver room. And I'm going to go with Parker Washington here. The reason I'm going with Parker Washington, he's got a very interesting build. When you see 5'10 from a wide receiver, you don't think 215 pounds. And that's what Parker Washington is. But make no mistake about it, his size does not neutralize his speed. He's a very speedy wide receiver, can play in the slot. He's just a playmaker all around. And I think, even if he decides to play outside, you put Tyler Lockett in the slot, there's so much versatility that you could have there, out wide, him in the slot. Those three guys as wide receivers on the line of scrimmage, I think could do a lot of damage. So I'm going to pick Parker Washington here at pick number 52. Then at number 83 overall for the Seattle Seahawks, I'm going to go with some interior offensive line help. Austin Blythe was pretty poor this past year, gave up a lot of sacks, had a few penalties as well. They could definitely use an upgrade at the center position. And I'm going to go with Jarrett Patterson here. I know that the last 3 years of his collegiate career, he played guard at Notre Dame, but he started his collegiate career at Notre Dame at center and played pretty darn well there as well. And he's also got really nice size for a center, 6'4", 310 pounds. I really like his versatility, and I'd love to see him get back to the center position at the NFL level. And I think the Seattle Seahawks could definitely be a home for him. So I'm going to pick Jarrett Patterson here at number 83 overall. With Seattle's next pick at number 122 overall, I'm going to go with a safety here. Now, I know what you may think when you hear that. Oh, they don't really need safety. And I get that. They really, really don't. Jamal Adams is coming back. Quandre Diggs, who's been very quietly one of the most consistent players in the NFL in his career up until this point. Ryan Neal played well as well. Hear me out. With Ji'Ayir Brown sitting here on the board, I can't help but feel like just keep adding to this really, really talented secondary. Brown is coming off of an incredible season for the Nittany Lions. He had 76 tackles. He had 4 interceptions, 4 pass deflections. He was all over the field for that Nittany Lions defense. I think it's going to translate quite well to the NFL, even as a role player at first and eventually maybe getting a starting spot. I think he's too talented to pass up here at 122 overall. Then at Seattle's next pick at number 151, I'm going to go with yet another secondary selection, and I'm going to take Kei'Trel Clark from Louisville. I really like Kei'Trel Clark. He had a very, very productive season, not this past year. The year past, he had 3 interceptions. This past year, he did have 1 interception, but he did take it back for a pick 6 as well. He doesn't have the greatest size, but he's got some really, really great playmaking ability. He's got good ball skills as well. And I like him overall as a prospect. And I think, like I just said with the past pick with Ji'Ayir Brown, you keep adding to this secondary. Like I said, why not make a strength stronger? I know that the pass defense played pretty darn well this past year, but why not make it even stronger? And with role players like this in the 5th round, I just can't pass up the talent. Then with Seattle's next pick, only 3 picks after that at 154, I am going to address the quarterback depth on this team. Now, I know this is purely a backup spot. Do not get me wrong here. This is not someone, he's going to be a 5th round sleeper and he's going to come sweep the league and be the next Brock Purdy or Gardner Minshew or something. I'm not saying that at all. I think that it's important, especially with Drew Lock and Geno Smith both being free agents. Geno Smith has expressed interest in coming back. The Seahawks want him back. Whether that, probably it's not a long-term deal, probably a few years, if that. I think that the quarterback depth needs to be addressed at this point. And, Clayton Tune is sitting on the board. Don't get me wrong, Clayton Tune has some pretty gaudy numbers at the collegiate level. That's because he played a Houston air raid offense. He's thrown the ball a bunch of times this past year. 4,074 yards, 40 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. You're not going to get that from a pro-style offense. That's just the way that it is. But I think Clayton Tune has some really, really great attributes to be a backup quarterback and maybe possible starter in the NFL one day. Who knows? 6'4", 220 pounds. He's got a little bit of mobility. He's got a big arm as well. I think it would be a good selection here at this point for the Seattle Seahawks. And then with Seattle's last pick at pick number 197, I'm going to address the offensive line yet again. I'm going to go with a tackle here. The tackle position, Abraham Lucas was great this past year. Charles Cross was great. Little bit of depth behind. I mean, it's razor thin behind those two guys. And I'm going to go with Jackson Kirkland here. Jackson Kirkland is an interesting prospect. 6'7", 310 pounds. Was probably going to be a late second, maybe a third round pick last year. Decided to go back to school. I think that was for worse for him. I think he kind of negated a little bit of his draft stock just a little bit as he's still sitting here in round 6. But nevertheless, still a great prospect. And I think if you could pick up someone like him with some great backup potential at this point in the draft, I think that's a massive win. So I'm going to go Jackson Kirkland with Seattle's last pick. And there you have it. There is my full 7-round 2023 Seattle Seahawks mock draft. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please leave a like and please leave a comment. Let me know what you guys think. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And I hope I see you in the next one. Thank you. Have a great night.